The ship's communication network lit up like a star-going supernova. Within an hour, every being aboard the Coalition vessel had heard about the incident. A human diplomat had been bitten by a live-in cub. Instead of demanding justice or even medical attention first, she had comforted the frightened child. The story spread from deck to deck, changing slightly with each retelling but keeping its essential truth. In the Vakrian military wing, Commander Vex studied the security footage for the 5th time. He watched Hana drop to her knees. He watched her open her arms. He saw the blood dripping on the floor. He shook his reptilian head in confusion. This was not logical behavior. Pain should trigger defensive response. Attack should trigger counterattack. It was basic survival programming, present in every intelligent species. Yet this human had overridden those instincts completely. Perhaps it was strategy, Vex said to his second officer. Make themselves appear gentle to gain our trust. His officer disagreed. Look at her face. Look at her body language. That is genuine emotional response, not calculation. In the science wing, the Chitik researchers discussed the incident with their typical analytical approach. The Chitik looked like large insects with multiple eyes and clicking mandibles. They relied on logic for everything. The behavior makes no sense, one Chitik scientist said. She gained nothing from comforting the cub. She lost blood, time, and potentially diplomatic standing by appearing weak. Another Chitik tilted its head thoughtfully. Unless she gained something we do not measure. Emotional satisfaction? Social bonding? These humans may value such things above physical welfare. The Liven community responded very differently. Pip's family lived in the merchant district, and their neighbors came immediately when they heard what happened. They brought gifts for Hana, small things they had from their homeworld. Soft fabric, sweet foods, a carved wooden figure. They wanted to thank the human who had shown their species such unexpected kindness. Meanwhile, in the medical bay, Dr. Kyung examined Hana's wound. Kyung was human, part of the small medical team Earth had sent. He carefully cleaned the puncture marks and applied advanced coalition healing gel that would have the wound closed within a day. That was foolish, Kyung said, but his tone was gentle. You should have let me treat this immediately. Hana smiled. It could wait. Pip could not. A Chitik medical observer stood nearby watching everything. Her name was Rolana, and she was writing notes on a digital pad. Why did you prioritize the cub's emotional state over your physical injury? She asked directly. Hana thought about how to explain. On Earth, we have learned something important. Physical wounds heal, but emotional wounds, especially in children, can last a lifetime. Pip was terrified. If I had responded with anger or even just pulled away, he would have learned that his fear was correct. That humans are dangerous. That he was bad for acting on instinct. Instead, I wanted him to learn that he is safe, that mistakes can be forgiven, and that not all strong things choose to use their strength to harm. Rolana's antennae twitched with interest. This is a cultural value? Teaching through emotional response? It is more than culture, Hana said. It is who we are. Humans feel things deeply. We cry when we are sad, laugh when we are happy, and hurt when others hurt. Some might see it as weakness. We see it as our greatest strength. Rolana recorded everything. Later, she would write a report that would change how the entire coalition viewed humanity. That evening, Hana received a message requesting she visit the Liven family quarters. She went with Junho, bringing some Earth chocolate as a gift. Pip's family lived in a small but comfortable space filled with soft furniture and warm lights. When they entered, Pip was hiding behind his mother's legs. The cub's mother, Mira, greeted them formally. Her husband, Kesh, stood beside her, both looking nervous. We wanted to apologize properly, Mira said, and to check on your injury, and to say that we understand if you wish to file charges against our family. Hana shook her head quickly. There will be no charges. It was an accident. Pip was scared. He is very ashamed, Kesh said quietly. He will not come out. He believes he has dishonored our family. Hana knelt down so she was at eye level with where Pip was hiding.
May I speak with him?
Mira nodded and Hana moved closer. Pip, she said softly, can you look at me? Slowly, the cub peeked out from behind his mother. His large eyes were red from crying. Hana held up her bandaged hand. See this? It is almost healed. By tomorrow, there will barely be a mark. But I want to tell you something important. When I was your age, I was scared of many things. I was scared of the dark. I was scared of loud noises. Once I was so scared of a big dog that I screamed and ran away. Do you know what happened? Pip shook his head, now fully visible and listening. My mother held me just like your mother holds you. She told me being scared was okay. She told me everyone gets scared sometimes. The important thing is what we do after. Do we let fear control us forever, or do we learn and grow? Yunho sat down nearby and pulled out his tablet. He showed Pip pictures of his nephew, a human boy about the same age. This is Daehyun, Junho said. He is 6 years old, just like you. He loves building things and playing in the garden. He also gets scared sometimes. Once he got so scared during a thunderstorm that he hid under his bed for 2 hours. Pip moved closer, interested. Do all children get scared? All children everywhere get scared, Hana confirmed. Human children, live-in children, probably even Vakrian children, though they do not like to admit it. Fear is how our bodies keep us safe. But sometimes fear makes mistakes. My fear of dogs was wrong because most dogs are friendly. Your fear of me was wrong because I would never hurt you. But having the fear is not bad. Acting on instinct is not bad. You are learning just like all children learn. By the end of the visit, Pip was sitting in Hana's lap, asking questions about Earth. What did the sky look like? Did humans really have animals living in their homes? Could he see pictures of Earth's forests? Hana and Junho answered every question patiently, showing images and videos. When they finally left, Mira had tears running down her furry face. Thank you, she whispered to Hana. You have given my son back his confidence. You have taught him that making a mistake does not make him bad. I do not know how to repay such a gift. Hana smiled. Just let him be a child. That is all the payment I need. As word of the visit spread, more aliens began to question their assumptions about humans. In the command center, Ambassador Threll called a meeting with his senior staff. They gathered around a large table, representatives from the major coalition species. I have been reviewing the human delegation more carefully, Threll began. Our initial reports focused on their capacity for violence. And yes, humans have fought wars. Yes, they have powerful weapons. But we missed something crucial. He pulled up data on the display screen. Look at their history. Yes, wars. But also look at this. Massive cooperative societies. Billions of individuals working together. Complex social structures built specifically to prevent violence. Treaties, laws, international organizations. They developed all of this while still confined to one planet. Commander Vex crossed his arms. That could show they need such structures because they are naturally violent. Or, Relana the scientist said, it shows they are capable of recognizing their own flaws and actively working to correct them. Most species never develop such complex controls. We simply lack the aggressive impulses to need them. Humans needed them and created them. That takes remarkable self-awareness. Threll nodded. And look at this. They have domesticated other species, not as slaves or food sources, but as companions. They live with creatures they call pets, caring for them, loving them. They form emotional bonds with beings that cannot even speak their language. This is unusual, a Luminar representative said. Her crystalline body refracted the light in rainbow patterns. Most species only bond within their own kind. Exactly, Threll said. Humans have an extraordinary capacity to expand their circle of care. They can bond with almost anything. This Pip situation proves it. Hana had known the cub for seconds before he attacked her. Yet she immediately included him in her circle of protection. She felt empathy for a being who had just caused her pain. The meeting continued for hours. By the end, Threll had made a decision. He would recommend humanity for coalition membership, not despite their capacity for violence, but because they had proven they could control it, because they chose compassion over revenge, because they valued emotional connections over physical comfort. The recommendation would be controversial. Many coalition members still feared humans, but Threll was convinced that humanity possessed something the coalition desperately needed. In a galaxy full of logical species, cold strategic thinkers, and careful diplomats, humans brought something different. They brought heart. That night, Pip fell asleep clutching a small toy Hana had given him. It was a stuffed animal from Earth, a soft brown bear. Pip did not know what a bear was, but he loved how it felt. His mother watched him sleep and thought about the human who had turned what could have been a tragedy into a moment of grace. Maybe the galaxy was about to change in ways nobody expected. 3 weeks passed on the coalition vessel. Humanity's application for membership moved through the complicated political process. Every day brought new meetings, new presentations, new questions. Hana and her team worked constantly, explaining Earth's history, culture, and values to beings who thought in completely different ways. The ship had divided into two camps. Some species saw humanity's potential. They liked the human capacity for quick thinking, for emotional intelligence, for creative problem-solving. Others saw only danger. They pointed to human wars, to weapons, to the violent history written in Earth's soil with blood and bone. High Counselor Dreth led the opposition. He was an old Vakrian, traditional and careful. He had seen many species join the coalition and watched some of them cause problems. He believed in thorough testing before acceptance. During a council session, Dreth stood before the assembly. The humans claim they have changed from their violent past. They say they value peace and cooperation, but words are easy. I propose we give them a real test, not of their technology or their knowledge, but of their character. Let them face a true crisis and show us who they really are. Ambassador Threll tried to object, but the council voted in favor. The humans would be given a chance to prove themselves through action. The universe provided the test sooner than anyone expected. 2 days later, a distress signal reached the ship. It came from Kelta 9, a frozen moon where several coalition species operated mining colonies. The message was brief and terrifying. Icequake. Tunnels collapsed. 200 miners trapped underground. Oxygen running low. The Coalition Council gathered immediately. Commander Vex pulled up the data. Our nearest rescue team is 2 days away. The miners have maybe 30 hours of oxygen, possibly less if the life support systems were damaged. Can we reach them faster? Someone asked. Vex shook his head. The cavern system is extremely unstable. Any attempt to tunnel in could cause another collapse. We would need to go slowly, carefully. Even then, we might not save everyone. The council began calculating acceptable losses. They discussed which miners were most valuable, which species could hold their breath longest, which tunnels might be more stable. It was logical, practical thinking. Save who you can, except that you cannot save everyone. Hana listened to all of this with growing frustration. Finally, she stood. With respect, Counselor Dreth asked us to prove ourselves. Here is our chance. My team would like to attempt a rescue. Dreth looked at her coldly. You have no rescue training, no experience with ice worlds, no proper equipment. You would die and accomplish nothing. Hana smiled. We have something better than experience. We have people who refuse to give up. Mirai has wilderness rescue training from Earth's coldest regions. Junho understands how living things adapt to extreme environments. Taiho has spent weeks studying coalition mining operations, and I have studied ice dynamics my entire career. Give us access to your emergency equipment and transportation. Let us try. The council debated. Some thought it was foolish to risk the human delegation. Others saw it as the perfect test. Eventually, Ambassador Threll made the decision. You may attempt the rescue, but you will not go alone. Anyone who volunteers may join you. To everyone's surprise, volunteers came forward immediately. A live-in engineer named Sola stepped up first. The humans saved my cousin in those tunnels by helping my people trust them. Now I will help them save others. A Chitic structural analyst joined next, then a young Vakrian pilot, then more. Within an hour, they had a mixed-species rescue team of 12. They loaded onto a transport ship with modified emergency pods and drilling equipment. The journey to Kelta 9 took 4 hours. During that time, Hana's team worked on a plan. They studied maps of the tunnel system. They analyzed the ice composition. They calculated routes and backup routes and backup routes. Mirai spread out the maps. The main tunnel collapsed here, she said, pointing. But there are service tunnels branching off. If we can reach this junction point, we might be able to create a rescue corridor using the emergency pods as structural support. Junho frowned. The ice is crystalline in that region, very brittle. Any heat or vibration could trigger another collapse. Then we work cold and quiet, Hana said. We use hand tools where we can. We move carefully. We take our time even though we have none. They landed on Kelta 9's surface. The moon was a world of ice and darkness. The temperature was cold enough to freeze carbon dioxide. Their suits were heated and pressurized, but everyone felt the hostile environment trying to kill them. The descent into the mine was terrifying. Every few minutes they heard the ice groaning around them. Cracks appeared in walls. Small chunks fell from the ceiling. The tunnel was like a living thing in pain, shifting and settling. Sola, the live-in engineer, monitored the structural readings. This is worse than I thought. The entire system is unstable. We should turn back, Hana looked at her. We cannot turn back. 200 people are depending on us. We could die, Sola said quietly. Hana nodded. Yes, we could. But they definitely will die if we do nothing. I can live with the risk of dying. I cannot live with the certainty of abandoning people who need help. They pressed forward. Twice they had to reroute when tunnels proved too dangerous. Once they had to crawl through a gap so narrow that Mirai had to remove her equipment pack and push it ahead of her. When the Chittick analyst calculated they had a 73% chance of causing a fatal collapse, Yunyo simply adjusted their technique and continued working. Back on the Coalition ship, the entire crew watched through remote drones. Commander Vex watched Hana's teamwork and felt something he rarely felt: admiration. These humans were terrified. He could see it in their body language, hear it in their breathing. But they did not let fear stop them. At one point, Sola panicked in a tight passage. The walls pressed in on both sides. She could not move forward or backward. Her breathing became rapid, her movements jerky. She was about to trigger her emergency transport, which would pull her out but seal the passage behind her. Mirai crawled back to her. Listen to my voice, Mirai said calmly. You are okay. The passage is tight, but it is not crushing you. Your suit has plenty of air. Your body has plenty of room. Close your eyes. Breathe with me. In for 4 counts, out for 4 counts. She talked Sola through it for 10 minutes, keeping her voice steady even though Mirai herself was frightened. When Sola finally calmed down and continued forward, Mirai followed without mentioning the incident again. No judgment. No criticism. Just support. They reached the trapped miners with 6 hours of oxygen remaining. But there was a problem. The rescue corridor they had created could only handle small groups at a time. They would need to make multiple trips, and the ice was deteriorating with every minute. Taiho did the calculations. We can get about 20 miners per trip. That means at least 10 trips. The structure will not last that long. Then we will be fast, Hana said. And we go last, what do you mean? The Chittick analyst asked. Hana looked at her rescue team. We volunteered for this. The miners did not. They get out first. All of them. Then us. That is how it works. But if the tunnel collapses, we die, the Chittick said logically. Yes, Junho said quietly. That is the risk we take. Throughout the Coalition ship, beings from every species watched this exchange in stunned silence. The humans were going to stay in the most dangerous position to give strangers the best chance of survival. It was not logical. It was not strategic. It was purely simply about what they believed was right. The evacuation began. Trip after trip, they guided miners through the unstable corridor. The ice groaned and cracked. Small collapses happened constantly. Twice they had to shore up sections with emergency foam. The oxygen timer counted down. With 30 minutes left, only the rescue team remained. The ice was making terrible sounds, like a wounded animal crying. We need to go now, Sola said urgently. They ran. Behind them, sections of tunnel collapsed. The sound was deafening. Ice chunks the size of vehicles fell from the ceiling. The corridor that had taken hours to create was being destroyed in seconds. Hana was last in line. She felt the floor shift under her feet. She dove forward as a massive section of ceiling came down exactly where she had been standing. Hunyo grabbed her arm and pulled her through the final doorway. Behind them, the entire tunnel system collapsed with a roar like thunder. They lay on the surface, breathing hard, covered in ice dust. Slowly, they got to their feet. All 12 members of the rescue team were alive, and 200 miners were safe. When they returned to the Coalition ship, they found the entire crew waiting for them. Every species, every rank standing in silence. As Hana and her team walked through the docking bay, the applause began. It started with the Livin, then spread to others. Even the Vakrians, who rarely showed emotion, were making their gesture of respect. High Counselor Dreth stood at the front. He looked at Hana for a long moment, then performed a deep bow. You have proven what words could not. Humanity has passed the test. That night, exhausted and battered, Hana sat in her quarters. Her body ached. Her hands were scraped and bruised. But she felt something she had not felt in weeks. Hope. Maybe they really could do this. Maybe humanity really did belong among the stars. The rescue changed everything. Within hours, every ship in the Coalition fleet had watched the footage. Miners from 7 different species sent messages of gratitude. Parents whose children had been trapped sent gifts. Even species that had opposed humanity's membership were reconsidering, but not everyone was pleased. In a private chamber, a group of conservative coalition members met in secret. They included High Counselor Dreth, several military commanders, and representatives from species who valued order and predictability above all else. "This is exactly what I feared," one commander said. "The humans perform one heroic act and suddenly everyone forgets the dangers. They are being manipulated by emotion." Dreth was more thoughtful. The rescue was not manipulation. It was genuine. "That is what concerns me. Humans act on feeling rather than logic. Today their feelings led to heroism. Tomorrow those same feelings might lead to recklessness or violence." Meanwhile, in the science wing, R'Lana the Chittick was conducting her own investigation. She had been fascinated by human behavior since the Pip incident. Now she was diving deeper into Earth's history, looking for patterns that the initial reports had missed. What she found amazed her. She discovered story after story of humans doing extraordinary things for strangers. Humans who ran into burning buildings to save people they had never met. Soldiers who threw themselves on explosives to protect their comrades. Ordinary people who donated organs to dying strangers. Parents who adopted children from completely different cultures and continents. The pattern was everywhere. Humans formed bonds not just with their own species but with anything they encountered. They had animals living in their homes as family members. They named their vehicles and robots. They cried over fictional characters and stories. They felt genuine grief when ancient trees were cut down. R'Lana compiled her findings and requested a meeting with Ambassador Threll. She found him in his office. Reviewing humanity's membership application, "Ambassador, I have discovered something important about human psychology," R'Lana began. She spread her data across his desk. "Humans have what I call extreme pack bonding behavior. Most species bond within their own kind. Some advanced species can bond with one or two other species. But humans can bond with almost anything." Threll examined the data with growing interest. "Explain." "Humans evolved in cooperative groups. Survival required teamwork. Over time, they developed the ability to expand their definition of family and tribe. They can adopt almost anyone or anything into their social circle. When they do, they will protect that being with their lives. This is not strategy. It is instinct." Threll thought about Pip. The cub bit Hana, and within seconds she had adopted him into her circle of protection. "Is this common among all humans?" "It appears to be fundamental to their species," R'Lana said. "Some humans are more extreme than others, but the capacity exists in all of them. This makes them uniquely dangerous to enemies and uniquely loyal to friends. Once a human considers you part of their group, they will die to protect you." Threll considered this carefully. So the miners on Kelta 9. Hana had never met them before, but she immediately included them in her circle. Exactly. To her, they were not strangers. They were people who needed help. That was enough to trigger her protective instinct. This is both humanity's greatest strength and what makes some coalition members nervous. Threll asked R'Lana to present her findings to the full council. But before that could happen, Dreth called an emergency session. He had intelligence that would change the debate completely. The council chamber was packed. Hana and her team sat in the observation section, unsure what was happening. Dreth stood at the center, his expression grim. "We have all seen the humans perform admirably in rescue operations," Dreth began. "But I have new information that must be considered. Our intelligence division has analyzed Earth's military capabilities. What they found is disturbing." He displayed images on the main screen. Weapons, powerful ones. Humans had developed missiles that could destroy cities. They had created bombs that could crack continents. They had ships being built that could, in theory, threaten coalition vessels. "Why?" Dreth asked. "Would a species isolated on one planet need such devastating weapons, unless they plan to use them against others once they reach the stars?" The chamber erupted in concerned voices. Many representatives looked at the human delegation with new suspicion. Hana felt her heart sink. All their work, all their efforts to show humanity's good nature might be destroyed in moments. Ambassador Threll raised his hand for silence. He looked at Hana. "You have the right to respond to these charges." Hana stood slowly. She felt every eye in the massive chamber on her. She took a deep breath and began speaking. "Counselor Dreth is correct. Humans have developed powerful weapons. I will not deny it or try to hide it. But let me explain the context. For our entire history, humans were alone. We looked at the stars and wondered what was out there. Were we the only intelligent species? Or were there others? And if there were others, would they be friends or threats? She paused, choosing her words carefully. We built weapons because we were afraid. We were a species huddled on one small planet, not knowing if the universe held wonders or horrors. So we prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. Every weapon we built was a defensive measure born from uncertainty and fear. But what have we done since meeting you? Dreth challenged. You still have those weapons? Yes, Hana agreed. Because they take time to dismantle safely. Because we have only known you for weeks. Because trust must be built. But what matters is not what we have built. What matters is what we choose to do with it. We could have threatened you with our military. Instead, we came here with open hands and open hearts. We could have demanded respect through force. Instead, we tried to earn it through actions. Junho stood beside her. May I add something? He asked. When permission was granted, he continued. Every species in this coalition has the capacity for violence. The Vakrians are formidable warriors. The Chittic can coordinate attacks with perfect precision, but you do not judge each other by your capacity for violence. You judge by the choices you make. We ask only for the same consideration. Teho spoke next. On Earth we have a saying. You can judge a person's character not by their strength, but by how they treat those weaker than themselves. Humans are strong, yes. We have weapons, yes. But look at how we use that strength. We risked everything to save miners. Hana embraced a cub who bit her. We consistently choose compassion over violence. The council debated for hours. Then, unexpectedly, a small voice requested permission to speak. It was Pip. The young Liven had been watching from the gallery with his parents. Coalition law allowed any member to give direct testimony. Pip walked to the center of the chamber looking very small and very brave. His voice trembled at first but grew stronger. I am the one who bit Ambassador Hana. I was scared. I thought she would hurt me because everyone told me humans were dangerous. He looked up at the counselors towering over him. But she did not hurt me, even though I hurt her first. Even though she had every right to be angry. She held me instead. She made me feel safe. If humans are really as dangerous as you say, then why am I standing here? Why am I not afraid anymore? The chamber fell completely silent. Sometimes truth comes from unexpected places. Sometimes wisdom comes from the young. Pip's simple question cut through all the political maneuvering and complicated arguments. If humans were truly dangerous, why was a child standing before them completely unafraid? Dreth looked at Pip for a long moment. Then he looked at Hana. He had opposed humanity's membership from the beginning. He had looked for reasons to reject them. But he was also fair, and he could not deny what he saw with his own eyes. Ambassador Threll called for a recess before the vote. The council would reconvene in 3 hours to make their final decision. As beings filed out of the chamber, Hana knelt down and hugged Pip. Thank you, she whispered. Pip hugged her back. I just told the truth. You are my friend. Friends help each other. Later in her quarters, Hana sat with her team. They were exhausted, emotionally drained from the intense session. Nobody knew which way the vote would go. They had given everything they had. Now they could only wait. Junho made tea using the electric kettle they had brought from Earth. They sat together in comfortable silence, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, their home, waiting to hear if humanity would be welcomed into the galactic community or sent back into isolation. Mirai broke the silence. Whatever happens, we did our best. We showed them who we really are, Teho nodded. And if they reject us, it is their loss. We know what we are capable of. We know that humans deserve a place among the stars. Hana smiled at her team. She felt proud of them, proud of what they had accomplished. Regardless of the vote, they had changed minds and opened hearts. They had shown aliens that humanity was more than its weapons and wars. They had proven that humans could choose kindness even when it cost them. But still, she hoped. She hoped that the coalition would see what Pip had seen, that beneath the surface differences, beneath the fear and uncertainty, humans and aliens were not so different after all. They all wanted safety for their children. They all valued courage and compassion. They all hoped for a better future. The metal corridor hummed with alien voices. Hana stood perfectly still, trying not to show her nervousness. Around her, creatures from 7 different worlds moved through the massive ship. Some walked on 2 legs like her. Others floated in special suits filled with gas. One group shuffled past on 6 legs, their shells clicking against the floor. This was the Galactic Coalition vessel, a ship bigger than any city on Earth. Hana had dreamed of this moment for 2 years. She was Earth's lead diplomat, chosen to represent all of humanity to the aliens. Behind her stood 3 other humans. Junho carried a tablet full of information about Earth's plants and animals. Mirai wore a simple uniform, her job to keep everyone safe. Taiho smiled easily, his role to help everyone understand each other's cultures. They waited outside the council chamber. Inside, alien leaders were deciding if humans could join their coalition. Hana knew what they were saying. She had read the reports. Earth was a dangerous world with heavy gravity, wild weather, and aggressive animals. Humans had fought terrible wars. They had weapons that could destroy cities. Many aliens were afraid of them. Ambassador Threll emerged from the chamber. He was Vakrian, a species that looked like walking lizards with intelligent eyes. His scales were deep green, marked with age and scars. He had been a diplomat for 40 years and had seen hundreds of species. He looked at Hana with an expression she could not read. "The meeting is taking a recess," he said through his translator device. "You may walk the ship. Be back in 1 hour." Hana thanked him and led her team down the corridor. They needed to clear their heads. The ship was amazing. Walls showed images of distant stars. Plants from alien worlds grew in gardens under strange colored lights. They passed a viewing window where a family of Livin stood watching the stars. The Livin looked like cats that walked upright. They had soft fur, large eyes, and small hands perfect for delicate work. The coalition protected them because they were gentle and frightened easily. The family consisted of 2 adults and a small cub, maybe 6 years old. The cub's name was Pip. Pip had heard about humans. His parents had warned him. Humans came from a death world. They were predators with forward-facing eyes. They ate meat. They had conquered their entire planet through violence. His teachers said humans were dangerous, unpredictable, emotional. But Pip was curious. When his parents were distracted by the view, he wandered away. He wanted to see a real human up close. He rounded a corner and suddenly there she was. Hana turned at the same moment. They collided. For Pip, time seemed to stop. The human was so much bigger than him. Her eyes were positioned like a hunter's. He had bumped into a predator. Every instinct in his small body screamed danger. His heart raced. His fur stood on end. Pure terror took over. Without thinking, Pip bit down hard on Hana's outstretched hand. His sharp juvenile teeth pierced her skin. Blood welled up immediately, bright red against her pale skin. The pain was sharp and sudden. The corridor exploded into chaos. Pip's mother screamed. Vakrian security guards came running, their hands on their weapons. Other aliens backed away, expecting violence. Everyone knew what would happen next. When you hurt a predator, it strikes back. It was basic survival instinct. Every species did it, but Hana did not strike back. She did not pull away. She did not shout. Instead, she dropped to her knees, making herself smaller than the terrified cub. Blood dripped from her hand onto the metal floor. She looked at Pip's wide, frightened eyes and saw what he really was. Not an attacker. Just a scared child. "It is okay, little one," Hana whispered. Her voice was soft and gentle. "You are scared. I understand. I am not going to hurt you." Pip was shaking so hard his teeth chattered. He had done something terrible. He had hurt someone. Now the punishment would come. But Hana opened her arms, the wounded hand and the healthy one, offering an embrace instead of revenge. "Come here," she said. "You are safe. I promise." Pip's mother rushed forward, expecting to pull her son away from danger. Instead, she found the human gently holding Pip against her chest. The cub was crying, his small body pressed against Hana's shoulder. She was murmuring soft words in a language he did not understand, but the meaning was clear. Comfort, safety, forgiveness. The entire corridor fell silent. Security guards lowered their weapons. Other aliens stared in disbelief. Junho and Mirai stood frozen, watching their leader choose compassion over pain. Taiho's eyes filled with tears. Ambassador Threll had heard the commotion and came running. He arrived to see something he had never witnessed in 40 years of diplomatic service. A being from a predator species, injured and bleeding, comforting the creature that had hurt her. The human was not even treating her wound. She was focused entirely on calming the frightened cub. "Your hand," Threll said, gesturing to the blood. Hana glanced down briefly. "It will heal," she said simply. "He needs comfort more than I need medical attention right now." Pip's mother approached carefully, speaking in the Liven language. She was apologizing, horrified by what her son had done. Hana smiled at her, then gently transferred Pip into his mother's arms. The cub did not want to let go. He clung to Hana's shirt until she carefully unwrapped his small fingers. "You did nothing wrong," Hana told Pip's mother through her translator. He was frightened. Children bite when they are afraid. It is natural. No harm done. "But there was harm," Pip's mother said, looking at the blood. "My son hurt you." Hana shook her head. "Pain fades, but fear can last forever if we handle it wrong. I would rather bleed a little than let him live with the belief that he is bad or that he should fear me." The Liven mother stared at her. Then she did something remarkable. She took Hana's wounded hand gently in her own paw-like hands and pressed it to her forehead. It was a Liven gesture of the deepest respect and gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing my child instead of the attack." Ambassador Threll watched all of this with growing fascination. He had recommended against accepting humanity into the coalition. Humans were too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous. But what he had just witnessed challenged everything in his reports. A human, hurt and bleeding, had chosen emotional comfort over justice. She had prioritized a stranger's child over her own pain. Other aliens began to crowd around, all talking at once. Someone brought medical supplies. Junho helped bandage Hana's hand while she continued speaking softly to Pip, who peeked at her from his mother's arms. The cub's fear was already fading, replaced by curiosity. By the time they returned to the council chamber, word had spread through the entire ship. The humans were not what the reports had described, or perhaps they were exactly what the reports described, but those reports had missed something crucial. Yes, humans could be violent. Yes, they came from a dangerous world, but they also had something else. Something the coalition had never encountered quite like this before. They had the ability to choose compassion, even when it cost them. They could look past their own pain to see another's fear. They could make themselves vulnerable to comfort the vulnerable. That evening, Hana sat alone in her quarters, looking at her bandaged hand. It throbbed a little, but the pain was already fading. She thought about Pip's terrified face, about how small he had felt in her arms, about how his mother had thanked her with tears in her eyes. She did not know that in his own quarters, Ambassador Threll was rewriting his recommendation to the council. She did not know that Pip's family was recording a testimony about what happened. She did not know that security footage of the incident was being watched and discussed by representatives from every coalition species. All Hana knew was that she had done what felt right. A child had been afraid and she had offered comfort. It was the most human thing in the world. What she did not yet understand was that this simple act of kindness had just changed humanity's future among the stars. The 3 hours passed slowly. When the call came to return to the council chamber, Hana's hands were shaking. The council chamber felt different now. The air carried weight, heavy with the knowledge that history was being made. Representatives from 7 coalition species sat in their designated sections, their alien faces showing various emotions that Hana was still learning to read. On Earth, billions of humans watched through transmitted feeds, holding their breath. Ambassador Threll stood at the center podium, his green scales catching the light. "The voting will proceed by species," he announced. "Each delegation will cast their vote as a unified voice. We require a majority approval for humanity to gain provisional membership in the Galactic Coalition." Hana sat with her team in the observation area. Junho held her hand tightly. Mirai sat perfectly still, her military training keeping her calm despite the tension. Tejo whispered a quiet prayer to ancestors, hoping they were watching. The Livin delegation votes first, Threll said. A Livin elder stood, her fur silvered with age. She looked directly at Hana. The Livin species has witnessed human compassion firsthand. We have seen them risk everything to save our people in the mines. We have seen them comfort our children with patience and kindness. We vote unanimously for approval. Relief flooded through Hana, but she knew this was just the beginning. They needed more votes. The Chittick delegation, Threll announced. Relana stepped forward, her insectoid body clicking softly as she moved. The Chittick have analyzed human behavior extensively. While their emotional nature is unusual and sometimes illogical, our analysis shows that humans possess remarkable adaptability and problem-solving capabilities. Their capacity for cooperation exceeds most species we have encountered. We vote for approval, though by a narrow margin. Some of our delegation remains uncertain. 2 votes in favor. Hana tried to remember what she knew about coalition voting rules. They needed at least 4 approvals out of 7 to pass. The Shen delegation, Threll continued. A Shen representative floated in a water-filled sphere. The aquatic beings communicated through color changes and chemical signals, translated by their devices. We abstain. We have insufficient data about terrestrial species psychology. Our interaction with humans has been minimal. We cannot make an informed decision. Not a rejection, but not helpful either. Hana felt the pressure increasing. The Luminar delegation. A crystalline being stood, light refracting through their body in rainbow patterns. The Luminar are fascinated by human consciousness patterns. Your emotional spectrum is wider and more intense than any species we have studied. This creates both opportunity and risk. However, we believe the potential benefits outweigh the concerns. We vote for approval. 3 votes in favor, 1 abstention. They were halfway there. The Micelle delegation. The fungoid Micelle communicated through their collective network, speaking as one voice through multiple bodies. We are troubled by human individualism. Your species prioritizes individual choice over collective harmony. This creates unpredictability. We vote against approval at this time. Perhaps in the future, when we better understand your nature. Hana's heart sank. 1 vote against. That meant they needed both remaining species to approve or they would fail. The Vaith delegation. The gaseous Vaith swirled in their containment suit. We recognize in humans a similar capacity for rapid adaptation that our species possesses. You survived on a dangerous world through flexibility and innovation. These are valuable traits. We vote for approval. 4 approvals. They had achieved a majority. But 1 delegation remained, and Hana knew this would be the most difficult. The Vacrians were the coalition's founding species. Their vote carried enormous political weight even beyond the numerical count. The Vacrian delegation, Threll announced. His voice remained neutral, but Hana could see tension in his posture. High Counselor Dreth stood slowly. The entire chamber waited to hear what he would say. He had opposed humanity from the beginning. He had raised concerns about their weapons, their emotions, their unpredictability. His vote could still shape how humanity was viewed, even if they technically had enough approvals. But before Dreth could speak, Ambassador Threll stepped forward. As ranking diplomatic officer, I invoke my right to address the council before the final vote. Dreth looked surprised but nodded permission. Threll had never exercised this right before in all his years of service. Threll turned to face the entire assembly. I have served the coalition for 40 years. I have evaluated hundreds of species, facilitated dozens of first contacts, and witnessed the best and worst that intelligent beings can offer. When I first read about humanity, I was skeptical. Their world is harsh, their history is violent, their emotions seemed like weaknesses. He paused, letting his words settle. But then I watched a human diplomat drop to her knees to comfort a frightened child who had just wounded her. I watched humans risk their lives for strangers trapped in ice. I watched them answer fear with understanding, pain with compassion, and suspicion with patience. I have never seen anything quite like it. Threll looked at Hana directly. I have encountered species stronger than humans, species more intelligent, species with longer lifespans and more advanced technology. But I have never encountered a species with a greater capacity to care. Humans feel deeply, not just for their own kind, but for everyone they meet. They cry for strangers. They sacrifice for people they have known for hours. They expand their circle of protection to include almost anyone. He turned back to the council. Yes, this makes them vulnerable. Yes, this makes them sometimes irrational. But it also makes them something we desperately need. In a galaxy of logical thinkers and careful strategists, humans remind us why we formed this coalition. Not for profit or power, but to create a community where all beings can live in peace and mutual support. Humans understand that mission in their bones. Threll sat down. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then Dreth stood again. He looked at Threll, then at Hana, then at the entire assembly. Ambassador Threll speaks wisdom, Dreth said slowly. I have opposed human membership because I feared what their emotional nature might bring. But I realize now that my fear was based on incomplete understanding. Yes, humans feel intensely, but they have also developed remarkable control over those feelings. They build societies, create laws, form treaties, all to channel their passions toward constructive ends. He stood straighter. I cast my vote for approval, but I do so with a warning. Humanity, you have shown us your best nature. You must never forget it. The galaxy will test you in ways you cannot imagine. You will face beings who do not share your values. You will encounter situations where compassion seems impossible. In those moments, remember today. Remember the choice to embrace instead of strike. Stay gentle when you could be harsh.
Stay open when you could close off.
Stay compassionate when it would be easier to be cold. Dreth looked at Hana with something that might have been respect. If you can do that, if you can remain who you are despite all the pressures and temptations that will come, then the coalition will be enriched by your presence. But lose that nature, let fear and power corrupt what makes you special, and you will become the monsters we initially feared. The choice is yours to make every single day. Threll stood at the podium. The vote is recorded. 5 species approve, 1 against, 1 abstention. Humanity is accepted as a provisional member of the Galactic Coalition. The chamber erupted. Some species celebrated. Others looked concerned. But the decision was made. Humanity had taken its first official step into the galactic community. Hana felt Junho squeeze her hand so hard it hurt. Tears ran down Mirai's face despite her attempt to maintain composure. Teho laughed with pure joy. They had done it. Against all odds, despite all the fear and suspicion, humanity had been accepted. Then something unexpected happened. A small figure broke from the gallery and ran across the chamber floor. Pip, ignoring all protocol, raced toward Hana. She knelt down just in time to catch him as he threw himself into her arms. You did it, Pip cried. You are staying. You are part of the coalition now. Hana hugged him tight. We did it together. You helped more than you know. Guards moved to escort Pip back to the gallery, but Dreth raised his hand. Let the cub stay. He has earned the right to celebrate this moment. The celebration continued for hours. Representatives came to congratulate the human delegation. Some offered advice. Others shared concerns. A few simply wanted to talk, curious about these emotional beings who had just joined their community. But as the excitement died down, reality set in. Membership was just the beginning. Now came the hard work of integration. Earth would need to establish diplomatic channels with dozens of species. They would need to share technology, accept trade agreements, provide personnel for coalition operations. Hana was appointed as Earth's first permanent coalition ambassador, which meant she would not be going home anytime soon. That evening, as the ship's lights dimmed to simulate night, Hana stood at an observation window. She watched Earth rotating slowly in the distance, a blue and white marble against the black void. Her home. Soon, hundreds of humans would be coming to the coalition, serving as diplomats, scientists, teachers, engineers. Humanity's future was being written in the stars. Ambassador Threll found her there. He stood beside her in comfortable silence for a moment, then spoke.